it's Rian Kutsia, Fortis Proactive Defense Solutions. Today we're going to be talking about snakes, and I am talking to Mike Perry from the African Reptiles and Venom Institute. Mike, good morning and welcome.
Morning, Rian. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate this, and I'm looking forward to this. I think it's going to be very interesting. Just for the viewers, so that you know, just a little bit of background on Mike for those of you who are not acquainted with him. Mike is a very renowned herpetologist, and he's had a lifelong fascination with anything reptile and specifically snakes, and this led to him eventually establishing the African Reptiles and Venom Institute. In his lifetime, listen to this, he has more than 140,000 snakes. That is a respectable number. And I'll be very honest with you, Mike, I get a little bit of goose flesh just thinking about it because I'm not as at ease with snakes as you are. So yes. You've then in the process supplied a lot of crucial snake venom to SA vaccine manufacturers to make anti-venomous snake and you also lead a whole bunch of accredited snake handling and safety courses, and this is available to the general public, to medical professionals, to industries, etc.
So, you know, I never thought that I would do snake courses. My training was, you know, I read books, and then I would speak to certain guys, get mentored, and I'll apply what I've read, and that's how I went along. So when somebody, you know, says, no, I'm going to do this or that, I'm going to do this course, I thought to myself, gee, what's wrong with you guys? Just, you know, read, man. Study the subject, get the information yourself. But what happened is in 1999, when I got the contract to supply snake venom for South African vaccine producers, I live between Johannesburg and Pretoria, areas called Diepsloot. We live on a small plot. And I started getting these snakes, and then people would just rock up at my farm. They say to me, you're the guy with all the snakes that extract the venom. I said, yeah, it's me. Look, I've got some questions. Would you mind? Then the guy spends a half a day here asking questions and, you know, wanting answers. 2 days later, another guy arrives. Same set of questions, more or less, all right, and spends another half a day. Waste my time again. 2 days later, another guy. And I guess in Afrikaans they call it gatvol. I just had enough. All right, I had enough. I said to the guys, don't come again. I'm going to compile a snake course. So in 1999, I started compiling a snake course. And in January 2000, I started doing snake training courses. So that's how it happened.
Okay.
You know? I never thought, I was never under, you know, I'm a bit, how can you say, teruggetrokken. What's the English for teruggetrokken?
You don't talk, you're not a people's person as such. You have to force yourself.
Yeah, I would have been happy to just be on the farm and extract the venom and do my thing here, you know, without getting involved with all the people. But this kind of threw me into you know, the mix. Now I've got to present training courses. And I started enjoying it because I enjoy the subject. I like to teach people about the subject. And this has actually been a blessing in disguise because the venom is not a business. Let me explain. Right now, this snake farm will cost me 2 million rand per year to run. When I sell the venom once a year, I get 500,000 rand back. All right. That has been 26 years in a row. I make financial loss like that. I do the snake venom because I enjoy doing it. That's why I do it. It's not because it's a business. It isn't a business, right? It's absolute charity work. That is what it is. Because if you make 1.5 million rand loss per year, okay, but you still carry on doing it, and the way that I can carry on doing it is because I do the training, it then, you know, makes up the difference that I need to actually run the business properly. So the training has actually been a blessing in disguise because Otherwise, the venom production would have folded a long time ago. It's not a business.
Well, the person, Walter Meyer, who referred me to you, his exact words to me were, I'm pretty certain Mike will be willing to chat to you. Mike basically knows more about snakes than snakes know about themselves. So what I thought after our discussion last week, I thought, because I was thinking of sticking with the most sort of venomous snakes, and you came with a counter proposal, which I actually liked a bit better, the most dangerous snakes in terms of the amount of people getting bitten per year.
Right.
So when we talk about snake bites in South Africa, many people like myself immediately think of the most venomous snakes and species.
Yeah.
But which snake species actually account for the majority of bites in South Africa?
Right. So there are 4 species of snakes that fall in this category. Right. All 4 of these snakes have cytotoxic venom. So that's a venom that causes pain and swelling. And when you get bitten by these snakes, the syndrome is called painful progressive swelling syndrome. So that's what's going to happen with you. Right, there's going to be a lot of pain, and the swelling is going to start at the bite site, and it goes up the limb. And depending on what snake has bitten you and how much venom was injected, that swelling can be limited to just the finger, to the hand, or it might go up to the elbow, it might go up to the shoulder, or it might go across the body. All right. So these snakes don't kill you per se. They can kill, right? So there's 4. It's the puff adder, the night adder, the Mozambique Spitting Cobra, and the Stiletto Snake. Those are the 4.
Oh.
2 of them we make antivenom for. That's the puff adder and the Mozambique Spitting Cobra. They fall into our polyvalent antivenom. And 2 of them are not covered by antivenom, the night adder and the Stiletto Snake. The reason is they are not deadly snakes, but they do put people into hospital. Because people get this tremendous swelling and they've got this pain, and that's it. They go to the hospital, and in the hospital, they'll be put on a drip. They'll be monitored. They'll give the patient pain medication, and 2 or 3 days later, off you go, discharged. So a lot of those bites happen, and the more notorious one is the stiletto snake. Stiletto snakes is African speciality. They do also go into the Middle East, but they are really their distribution is Africa. So these snakes are normally small snakes, under 1 meter in length, and they normally dark brown or black, very shiny skin, and they have a unique fang structure. The fang is on a mobile maxilla bone. But it's not the mobile maxilla bone that you get in an adder or viper, where the fangs can swing very far forward. So these fangs hinge just a small amount of venom, so that the tip of the fang always points to the rear. So these snakes bite in a very special way. They don't open the mouth to bite. Right? What they do is, a snake's bottom jaw consists of a left hand and a right hand mandible, and they're not fused in the middle here. That's a good way of recognizing if this is a snake or a lizard, because you get lizards with no limbs and you might think it's a snake. Okay. But that lizard will have a solid bottom jaw like we have. Snakes have a left and a right half of a bottom jaw, and they're not fused in the front. So what this allows the snake to do is the ability to swallow large prey. When they swallow large prey, the 2 halves can separate, so the prey can go into the throat. But what it also allows is for the snake to bring the 2 jaws in. So a stiletto snake, if he wants to bite on the right-hand side, he'll bring the bottom jaw slightly in, and now the fang moves, all right? So it hinges, and then the tip of the fang points to the rear. It's just hanging out the bottom of the jaw. And then the snake bites in a very unique way. It gaffs the prey. You know, like when you catch a tuna or whatever in the sea, when the fish comes near
Yes.
the boat, you put the gaff on the tuna and you hook it by pulling it back. That's
Yes.
exactly what these snakes do. With a sideways swipe, left or right, depending on where there's movement, and the fang will be either the right or the left, depending on which side they're going. They'll hook you, they gaff you with a fang. Once they've gaffed you with a fang, the snake twists the neck to hold on and injects the venom. So that's how they bite. So normally, if you have an encounter with a stiletto snake, there's a single fang mark. You can have more fang marks depending,
Okay.
on how quick the snake reacts after the first bite. But very often there's just a single fang mark. But yeah, if you pick the snake up and you keep on handling it, it's going to, puncture you all over the ship. But yeah, people don't normally do that because the venom from this snake is a painful bite. Big men cry with this bite. It is painful. Now,
Well,
in South Africa,
some
we get
people
two.
might some people, sorry, Mike, some people might do that in order to try and get a TikTok video to go viral. But I have a feeling they'll only do it once.
Yeah, they'll only do it once. Right, so in South Africa, we have two species of stiletto snake. Right, it's the Bibbern stiletto snake and the snouted stiletto snake. The Bibberns is the most common, and it's also the one with the very short fuse. Now, this snake is a very common culprit in snake bite. If you look at round Durban, most common snake bite around Durban. Right. If you look at the Hartbeespoort Dam, most common snake bite around Hartbeespoort Dam. If you go into the Northern Cape, where the Sishen mine is, just north of the Sishen mine, there's a little small town called Katu. Most common snake bite, stiletto snake bites. So originally they feature as a very common snake, and when we get the first summer rains coming up, these snakes are fossorial. They live underground, where they catch small sand lizards or little snakes that are in termite mounds. But when it rains, they come out. And now they're active. People step on them or people see the snake and they say, this looks like a small mole snake. I'll just pick it up. They grab it behind the head, and you can't do that with a snake because they drop the fang out. They just gaff you with that fang. 1 in 4 bites on the tip of the finger, you're going to have an amputation, like this finger of mine here. Right? So 25% amputation rate for tip of finger bites from these snakes. They're not deadly. The ones we have are not deadly because they've got small venom glands in the head. If you go further in Africa and into the Middle East, you get stiletto snakes that have a length over 1 meter in length. And they also have long venom glands that lie in the neck region. And because of this longer venom gland, they are able to inject more venom. And these stiletto snakes have a very unique component in that venom called seraphotoxins. Seraphotoxins are very powerful vasoconstrictors. They attack the coronary artery and the aorta and make them close. Right, so if you've got a closed coronary artery, you get a heart attack. So that's exactly what will happen with this bite. The bite will give you a heart attack. So we don't make any antivenom for these snakes in southern Africa because they're not deadly. In Israel, they make an antivenom for the deadly stiletto snakes that they have there. Those are the ones that have the long venom glands. So they make antivenom for those.
Okay.
All right. So that's a stiletto snake. Right. Nobody knows a stiletto snake until they get bitten. Then they hear about a stiletto snake.
That's a bad time to get to know it.
Yes. Right. But then the other non-deadly snake is the night adders. So night adders have cytotoxic venom. Once again, with the night adders, you get 2 types of venom glands. You get venom glands in the side of the head, and you get venom glands that lie in the neck region. So the night adders with venom glands in the neck region is our common night adder that we get here in South Africa. Then the West African night adder, the green night adder, and there's one more other night adder that also has those long venom glands. So with the long venom glands, these night adders are able to inject a greater volume of venom. And then they are able to overpower large toads. Right? These snakes eat toads, frogs and toads. That's their prey. But the ones with a long venom gland are able to overpower bigger toads, because toads are quite resistant to snake venom. But because they have this higher volume, they are then able to prey on those large toads as well. So night terrors don't grow big. They're normally under a meter in length. And you find them where there are lots of frogs and toads. So if you look at the distribution in southern Africa, it is down on the Cape Coast, up along the coast into KwaZulu-Natal, into Mpumalanga, Limpopo, Gauteng, Northwest, right? Places where there are rivers, marshes, and things like that, so there will be food for these snakes. You won't get them in that dry Kalahari area and into Namibia. You won't find them there because there's just not enough frogs for them to eat.
So if you have a pond in your garden with some frogs living there, you might actually find one of these guys in there.
Exactly right. Yeah. So if you look at prevention of snake bites, that is something that you need to eliminate. You don't want those little fish ponds and whatever, because they attract the frogs and toads, and then that in turn attracts snakes that feed on them.
So when we look at these common offenders that we've now spoken about, you said that 2 of them have got bites that can be life-threatening, and 2 of them can. I mean, it's a bit of a wide description, I think, because if you can get bitten on the finger by a small snake like the stiletto snake, and you can actually get an amputation, then I think that's serious enough. You don't even have to go to life-threatening. That's enough of a problem. When we talk about pain levels, swelling and discomfort, that sort of stuff, on a sort of a pain scale out of 10, what are you looking at when these guys bite you?
Look, I've had a bite from a puff adder. It was painful, but I think people that have had stiletto snake bites probably have more pain. Just seems to give a lot of people a lot more pain. I haven't had stiletto bite, night adder bite, or Mozambique Spitting Cobra bite. I've had 3 snake bites. The first bite was a puff adder bite in 1971. That was my standard 9 school year. I was 1 week in hospital with that bite. I didn't lose the finger, but it was a close call. Then almost a year after, I had a bite from a rinkles. Now, both these bites were handling mistakes. These were still my formative years, finding out about snakes on my own, because there was nobody around to show you, so you just learn as you go. Then I had a 38 years. You see, what happened then, after the second bite, I decided, look, I find snakes very interesting. I'd like to know more about them. I'd like to study them. I just need to be more careful. So then I started applying some principles of using equipment and being more careful and protecting, lower leg, etc. when I work with snakes.
So you decided to be more careful after the second bite.
I decided to be more careful. That gave me 38 years without a snake bite.
Okay.
Then April 2010, I was at a remote mine in Tanzania doing a snake training course at the mine. I'd received snakes from a snake exporter. And in African countries, they often pack these snakes in mosquito mesh bags. And I'd received this large forest cobra in a mosquito mesh bag. I'd used the snake for the training. We're done with that snake. I put him back in the bag. And when I lifted the bag up to put him back in the crate, my hand was next to the bag. And the snake bit me through the bag. He bit me on the right forefinger. The snake held on. I had to pull my finger out of its mouth. The fangs cut the finger. I went to the clinic, the hospital at the mining site. The doctor had never seen a snake bite.
Oh,
I had to tell him this and this and this is what we're going to look for. I asked him if he had antivenom. He shook his head. He says, there's nothing like that here. So I said to him, this is a big mining group. I said to him, all right, show me where you keep refrigerated medications. He says, okay, let me show you. He takes me through to another room. He says, there's the fridge. It's all in there. I said, okay, fine. I go to the fridge, I open it up, I scratch around. In the bottom, I find 10 ampules Sanofi Pasteur antivenom, polyvalent for Africa, the French polyvalent. So he doesn't even know that he's got antivenom. When I pull the antivenom out, his smile almost cut his head off. He was so glad to see the antivenom. And he says, I'm going to inject you now. I said, no, but you wait until I tell you to do the injection. And I told him we're going to wait for this and this and this and this to happen. And if that happens, I take the antivenom, but not before. And so I then told him to put me on a drip. And he just stood there. I waited a minute. I looked him in the eyes and I said to him, Doctor, put me on a drip. We need vascular access to treat a snake bite. And still he stands there. It's like his feet were in a block of concrete. I think he got some kind of a shock because he had never treated a snake bite, and now he's got no knowledge of treating a snake bite, you know. Then I said to him, just sit there, sit. Right, I'm going to lie on the gurney. Let's see what happens. I told him that he had to do a 12-lead ECG on me, which luckily he knew how to do that. And we waited half an hour after the bite. I said to him, bring the bucket. I'm going to be sick. I vomited the first time. Lay down. 30 minutes later, I said, bring the bucket. I'm going to vomit again. I vomited the second time. Lay down. 45 minutes later, I said, But, bring the bucket. I'm going to be vomiting again. And I vomited the third time. Lay down. Another 45 minutes passed. I said to him, bring the bucket. I'm going to be vomiting again. I vomited the fourth time. After the fourth time, I felt better. When I lay down, I felt that my head is clearing now. So I had a look at the time. It was now 2.5 hours after the bite. So I thought, okay, let me see if there's any paralysis. Right, this snake has a neurotoxic component in the venom. Let me see if there's any paralysis. I get off the gurney, I walk around, I check. Nothing is happening. I checked a few other things, which are the things that you need to check for this, one of the 4 things you check. Right, we had done 2 ECGs up to this stage. They were also fine. So I said to the doctor, cheers, I'm out of here. He said to me, are you sure? I said, yes, I'm sure. So I left. I went to the mess hall to eat. I had no appetite. I just drank fluids. I went to my room and I slept. 2 hours later, knock on the door. It's the doctor. He's just checking if I'm not dying. And I said to him, you don't have to worry. The mild cobra bite is not going to kill me. There's going to be tissue damage, but tissue damage we sort out a week after the bite. Tomorrow, I've got a 5.5 hour journey to get to Mwanza airport. After that, in the afternoon, I'm going to fly back to Dar es Salaam. Tomorrow night, I'll sleep in Dar es Salaam. And the day after, I'm going to take a flight back to South Africa. So within 2 days, I'm going to be back in South Africa. There's nothing for you to do. Cheers, but. So he leaves. And I couldn't sleep after that. Because it felt if I was holding my finger over a candle flame. That is the best way to describe that pain. The pain was excruciating. You know, if you want to feel what it feels like, just light a candle and hold your finger about 10 centimeters above the flame. And when it starts getting uncomfortable, use your other hand to keep the finger over the flame. And just keep it there all night. Then you know what it's like. Yeah, it's painful.
I think I'm going to just take your word for that. I think I'll do that.
Right, so those are the 3 bites I've had. So that's now 15 years ago, my last snake bite.
Oh. When it comes to the treatment, the medical perspective,
yes.
Just a quick overview. How are these bites generally treated? You started talking about what you went through, but let's say you're at a more well-equipped hospital where the doctors know they've got antivenom and stuff. Are
Right.
antivenom always necessary? Apparently not.
Yeah.
And
Right.
because
So,
I've heard varying stories about the treatment of this, and some of them sounded a little bit horrifying to me. It sounded as if wrong choices were made that shouldn't
right.
have been made.
Yeah. Right. So when it comes to medical treatment, you must go to a trauma hospital. We always emphasize that. Right. A trauma hospital is where very bad cases of injuries, etc., go to, poisonings, and then also snake bite. Why? Well, in a trauma hospital, they've got all the life support, all right? And those doctors are trained for those medical emergencies. They know what to do. That's why you go to that hospital. Now, there might or might not be expertise there. All right, so what's happened in South Africa is that we have a doctor's WhatsApp group where you can get expert advice. So if you go to a hospital and it's a new doctor, he's just graduated, he's never seen a snake bite, right? A doctor from this group can then speak to him and say to him, all right, this is what you're going to do. This and this and this is what you're going to look out for, all right? These are the indications for antivenom, etc. Right, so you can get a very quick overview of what to do, the correct treatment from a senior snakebite specialist doctor. Right, so it's completely changed in South Africa. The easiest way to get access to that is through the Poison Center for South Africa, which is in Cape Town. Right, and I can just look up the number for the Poison Center, and if you want to, we can give that out here. Okay, Poison Center Tygerberg is 0861 555 777. So that's how you gain access.
555
Yeah, that's how you gain access to the expertise in South Africa.
I think I'll probably display that number on the screen for the duration as well.
Yeah.
Because I think that's a rather important number for people to have on their phones. Mike, before we end, because I want to just touch on your courses as well, but I want to ask you what practical steps people can take to avoid encounters with these species of snakes. We've now talked, let me see if I've listened, the spider, is it the Cape Cobra you said?
No. The four most common bites is Puffer Spitting Cobra, the Mozambique Spitting Cobra, and Stiletto Snake, right?
And the stiletto, okay.
Yeah. So,
how do you avoid this? What practical steps can people take to avoid contact with these species of snakes? Especially,
right.
well, I suppose anywhere but rural or farming areas, more specific.
Right. So, let's look at two things: around your house and going into the bush. So around the house, you need to keep your yard clean. Right? It's no good you have you've extended a little piece there, and now there's a pile of bricks lying there and building rubble, and who knows what not. Right? Because that's a place where frogs and lizards and mice can hide in, and then the snakes go after that, and now you've got a snake hotel there, kind of, you know. So you need to clean. Now, people don't like this type of idea. I go to people that have, it's almost like they've taken a piece of a Central African forest and put it in their garden in Sandton.
Yes.
Right? It just looks absolutely beautiful, right? And then they want me to spray some little magic in between the plants that will just chase the snakes away. There's nothing like that. There isn't a snake repellent that's going to keep the snakes away. You need a physical barrier if you want to keep snakes away, right? And the easiest physical barrier is a smooth wall or a snake-proof fence. So a snake-proof fence is the cheapest. Every 3 meters, you've got wooden poles into the ground. These poles must be 1.5 or 1.8 meters out of the ground. And then on the outside of the pole, you nail shade netting, right? And that shade netting goes into the ground 20 or 30 centimeters. So you've got this shade netting fence around your property. Right, snake comes out of the bush, hits the fence. He can see through the shade netting, so he pushes. He gets tired of pushing, he turns around, goes back into the bush. So that physical barrier keeps the snakes away from your house. Right, the only vulnerable place is where the actual gate is. So there you must make sure that it can close properly. It goes down to the ground when it closes, and the sides are also closed so snakes can get through any gaps there. But that's...
And how high must this shadow net be to go up?
It depends on the snakes that you want to keep out. Normally, I would say 1.5 is adequate for most snakes, but if you're in Mamba country, you probably need a 1.8 meter. And then also very important, you don't want any shrubs or trees or whatever near the fence. There must be at least a 2-meter clearing on either side of the fence. You know, this is what we do with mines. So I do a lot of snake courses with the mines, and they've got a lot of people. Sometimes these people, the mine has just started out, so a lot of people are living in tents. And they do have a security fence around the encampment where the people are. Then we just say, right, the next thing is on the outside of that fence, you put shade netting. And all of a sudden, no snakes. All of a sudden, they find no snakes where the people are living, just like that. So it keeps the snakes in the bush, and it keeps the people safe in the camp. Right, so that's around the house. Avoid fishing ponds and all this type of thing. I know it's beautiful to see the koi, whatever, right? If you can live with snakes, then fine. Do your koi pond and you'll have frogs and it'll be all natural environment. It's beautiful like that. But if you're somebody that don't want snakes around, then, you know, get rid of the pond. Yeah. You know, people have all these ground covers. As I said, there's no snake repellent that keeps snakes away. You can get chemicals that will kill snakes. Those chemicals will also kill your pets and your children. All right. So, you know, you can't have it around. So you get rid of everything like that. Then to avoid snakes, that you don't want them around your house, right? You need to eliminate their food, eliminate water, and eliminate places where they can hide. So the easiest way to do that is get rid of a garden and just pave from the house wall to the wall of the property. So everything is paving around your house. You're not going to have snakes. That is a environment where they don't like to be in. In the bush,
you've got some choices to make.
Yeah, in the bush. Right. 80% of snake bites take place on the feet and lower leg. So it makes sense to protect that part of the body. So
you said 80% of snake bites are on the feet and lower legs.
Yeah, so sturdy boots and gaiters are what we advocate. Okay, so if you look at the mining community, a lot of them insist that people wear the gaiters. Now, in the day when it's hot, it might be difficult to wear gaiters. If we look at when snake bites take place, this can also be a good way to determine when is a good time to actually wear the gaiters. Right, 50% of snake bites take place between a 5-hour window, 1,700 to 2,200 hours. All right, so as the sun starts setting, rats, mice, and frogs become active. Snakes become active to hunt their prey. Right, so there's a lot of snake activity in the early evening. People are still active. They walk around with inadequate foot protection. They step on snakes, they get bitten. So once again, you're camping, all right? Make sure that you have your firewood ready and all that by 5 o'clock. Just stop earlier and get all that sorted, so you don't have to go wander when it's starting to go dark and then snakes become active. Simple, you know. You just apply logic and then You eliminate snake bites. And then when you sleep in a tent, that tent must be closed. It must zip close. If you go in and out, you go out, you zip it closed from the outside. You come in, you open it, and you zip it closed. It's no good going in and out and leaving the tent open, and then you're busy at the braai, and then the snake crawls into your tent. And then later, when the tent is zip closed and you're in your sleeping bag, now all of a sudden you meet a snake. And then you run with the tent and everything. You pull the pegs out as you run.
Yeah, I've seen guys do that actually. I've seen it happen.
Yeah.
Mike, I think to end off this this video, because I'm really enjoying this discussion very much, and I mean we could keep at it for hours, but I think to end this video, give us just a quick oversight of your what sort of training courses you have available, and where
Right.
people can contact you. Your specifically, I'm going to display your website address on the screen for the duration of the conversation,
All right,
to make
100%.
it easy for people to get hold of you. But if you can just give us a little bit of insight about what you've got available in terms of courses.
Right, so we do a theory training course. So in this theory, we will speak about snake awareness, senses of snakes, all right, different fang structures, different venoms, what happens when a snake with cytotoxic venom bites you, that's painful progressive swelling. The neurotoxic venom causes progressive weakness, and the snake that has a hemotoxic venom will cause a bleeding syndrome. So we discuss details of that, all right? Then we go to first aid, right? What you're going to do when you get bitten until you reach the hospital. Then we go into the medical treatment. What happens in the hospital? And then we look at allergic reactions. You can have allergic reactions to the antivenom. And that reaction to antivenom can be so serious that it can kill you. It's called anaphylaxis, anaphylactic shock.
Okay.
All right. So we discuss that also. Because if a doctor is going to use antivenom, he must know how to treat anaphylaxis. He must be prepared that it is going to happen, because it's a fairly common thing when you treat people with antivenom that the patient's going to have anaphylaxis. Right, so that's the scope of the theory. All right, then we normally have a short break about 12:30 till 1. People have a light lunch. Then we come back, we do an assessment, multiple choice type questionnaire. After that, we do some theory on catching snakes. So we're going to show people this is the equipment you're going to use, how you're going to use it. These are the techniques that you're going to apply to catch different snakes, etc. Then after that, we go outside and we take live snakes. So we have like separate camps where we can put small groups into the camp with a facilitator, and they're going to catch puff adder, wrinkles, spitting cobra, and a snouted cobra during that session. Right. After this, we have another course. This is the advanced course. This is the black mamba handling course. All right. With our advanced course, each person will have his own black mamba that he's going to catch.
Oh.
The first thing we do with that black mamba is we put it out on the grass, and you got to chase that snake and get that snake back into the container. We show you how to do that. All right. But a lot of people do a lot of running when we do this, because these snakes are all over the show. We can't do the black mambas in those little camps because they just fly over. It's a very low fence, so they just fly over the fence. So we just put them out in an open area, one guy at a time, and he's got to catch his mamba. Right? That's normally what we call a tail and hook method. So you'll get hold of the tail and you use a hook to keep the head away from you. You guide the snake and he goes back into the container. After that, we show people how to neck the snake. Yeah, you get these big thatch roof roofs over the area.
Yes.
And then the staff come in the morning and they see the black mamba right at the top there. All right, and they're not going to work with that snake up there. So they call the ranger. He's got to get it out. So that's where you have to actually neck the snake. You haven't got the space to tail and hook the snake. So in that scenario, you need to get up there somehow, maybe scaffolding or a long ladder. You need to use equipment to get the snake behind the head. Then you need to grip him with your hand. Then you need to pull the body out, right? And then come down with that snake in the hand. So in that scenario, you need to be able to neck the snake. So that's the other thing we teach snakes how to do, teach the people how to neck the snake properly. So yeah, that's the training we go through. And then we can adjust it according to a client's needs. Some clients only need a very short, awareness thing. We can adjust it for that. Mm-hmm. Other clients, like the medical profession, right? They just want more on the medical side. They want to know what they need to do in the hospital, etc. So we can adjust the course material according to the client's needs.
Okay, so basically, anybody who's got any sort of interest in snakes, and then anybody who is working in an environment where the odds of getting in contact with these animals are higher, are typically the people or businesses who need to be looking at courses like this. So, Mike, I think I'm gonna end it there. For the viewers, as I've mentioned, I'll be displaying the details on the screen, and in the link below the video, in the description below, I will be adding links to where you can also contact Mike. I think I'll be adding specifically, Mike, if that's okay, your YouTube channel.
Sure. Yes.
Because Mike's got a really big YouTube channel, and there's a lot of amazing information on there. And then, as always, you guys know the story. Please like the video. Please subscribe to the channel. Click the bell icon if you want to receive notifications of all our future videos. And if you are interested in our loan operator courses, I will be providing a link in the description below as well. Click on that, go check it out, and we hope to see you on a range one of these days. Mike, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks,
I
Rian.
really enjoyed this chat. It was very enlightening. Enlightening, yes. Enlightening doesn't sound proper. So thank you once again, and I hope we can repeat this one of these days.
100%. There's still lots to speak about. So if you want another round, we can carry on.
Great stuff. Thank you.
Thanks, Rian. Keep well.